Hey guys, it's David Moorfield with basicbitcoinstrategy.com, and today I'm really excited because I got some sensors in the mail that I'm going to deploy at my office so that I can watch my HVAC units. Now, many of you know me as a moderator on the Helium Mining Club, and I love helium mining. I love talking about helium mining. It's exciting. But the thing that I really enjoy talking about and learning about is deploying sensors on the Helium network and really expanding capabilities past what a lot of people actually even kind of know about right now. LoRaWAN's not a new idea, but in the past, if you wanted to use a LoRaWAN device, you had to have a gateway connected to your network that could receive that signal, and so you're very limited geographically where you could use LoRaWAN. Helium, basically what they did is they incentivized a bunch of people, helium miners like myself, to go out and put up gateways or hotspots, and they're incentivizing people by paying them in H&T to provide this coverage. So now you can take a LoRaWAN sensor, add it to the Helium network, and as long as you're within coverage, it's going to be able to report data. Now, I live in Houston, which is the fifth largest city in the country, and there is so much coverage here that basically if I'm driving around with my mapping tool, I'm pretty much hitting somebody's hotspot. You're welcome for those DC credits. But at my office, there's enough helium coverage where it doesn't matter what kind of sensor I deploy, it's going to be able to communicate. And so I've got water leak sensors under our sinks. I've got door contact sensors on our AED cabinet. So if anybody opens up an AED cabinet, I'll get a text message and an email, and I know that potentially there's a medical emergency going on. I've got temperature and humidity monitoring on our data closets, which right here, this is a dashboard, and you can see here's my temperatures, here's the humidity level, and if I want to get granular, I can see right now what is going on with my data closets. So, what I thought I would do today, since many people are still kind of unsure how to onboard a sensor to the network, how to set it up, how to use them, what are they for? I mean, there's a lot of questions I've had people ask. So I figured, hey, while I'm onboarding some sensors, I might as well make a video and kind of show off because I'm pretty excited about these. I'm not going to lie. So without further ado, I'm going to show you the sensor that I picked up for our dry coolers that are on the roof. And basically this is going to give me water temperature. And it's got quite a long probe here, but you can see this probe is a temperature probe. And then this is the sensor node. And of course I have a 2 on it because that's going to be dry cooler number 2, right? So I'm simply just going to attach this to a dry cooler. I'm going to take this probe and I'm going to place it in between the insulation and the pipe so that I can get water temperature off of the pipe. And that way, if I have 110 degree water coming out of my dry cooler, but it's 80 degrees outside, I know that I have a heat exchange problem and I need to get my HVAC company out before I start seeing failures in our data closet. So, I've been using Datacake as my back end for my data, where I'm setting my rules as far as a threshold to trigger an email or a text message. You can use others, but Datacake just seems pretty easy for me, and so that's kind of where I'm using that data at this moment. But this is what the inside of the sensor looks like. And if it weren't green, it wouldn't be transparent. So the board obviously is gonna get caught by my chroma key, but you can see here's the radio module. You can see the IPEX connected to it, and there's this little yellow jumper, and that's basically, well, I don't know if you can see it here. The yellow jumper, when you move that over and you connect 2 pins, that basically closes the circuit and it turns it on. The batteries on these, depending on how often you have them programmed to call home, they can last several years. And so that's pretty nice too. But one thing that I really love about Dragino is if you go to later in another step, when we look at console decoders, Dragino actually publishes all of the console decoders for the Helium network for their devices to Helium's GitHub. And I don't think you can get much better than that. I mean, I think it's great that devs and others are out there writing decoders for GitHub to be used on the Helium network, but to have a manufacturer that not only do they make a really, really nice device or devices, they also write the console decoder. That just makes it so easy. Like, my door contact sensors are the LDS01s. Now they have a second version, the O2s, which take a better battery. But I mean, onboarding those was no big deal. Throw the console decoder to it and boom, it works. You know, same with the water leak sensors. So those were the LWL01s, and my understanding is they have the O2 version now. Maybe one day we get to them, but you know, they work great, so I don't really care. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this device, onboard it, and configure it, and kind of walk you through the steps and show you how super easy Dragino makes it to do this. Some other manufacturers, they don't make it as easy. And I had bought sensors from a different company for the roof, and very quickly I realized that I had made a huge mistake. You know, I'm always going to go, moving forward, I'm pretty much going to stick with Dragino or Seed. Both of them are very much active in the Helium community and support the network. And on top of that, they just make it easy, and their stuff works straight out of the box. And that's honestly what I want, because I don't have the time to go around and try to custom write a decoder. Yeah. So when you open up the box, it's going to have a label here. I'm not going to show you what's written on it because I want to keep that to myself. But basically, there's 3 things off of this label that you need in order to onboard a device, and that is the dev EUI, the app EUI, and the app key. And I made this a little easy for myself earlier by copying some of that information to some notes so I can just copy and paste. So in console, if you go down to this plus sign, so I'm going to go back to devices just so you can see where I'm at. All right, so there's a little plus sign down here in the lower right hand corner, and we're going to simply just say add device, and I'm going to name this dry cooler number 1. All I have to do at this point is literally go to my document that I made earlier, and actually I'm going to do dry cooler 2. All right, I'm going to paste in the dev EUI. I'm going to paste in the app EUI. And then I'm going to take the app key and I'm going to paste that in. Now before I do that, I am actually going to go back to camera. I don't want to show my app key. Alright, so now that the app key is in there, I can show you my screen where we're at. Alright, so now that I've got all of that information in there, I'm just going to easily say, oh, you know what? I want to add a label. And there's a reason that I like to label things. You can group them by label. Later, you'll be able to drag that label over to your decoder integration or your function for the decoder, and then draw a line over to the integration, and it makes things a whole lot easier. It makes your flowchart look spectacular. So I will show you that shortly. All right, so I'm going to save device. Okay, now we need to go to GitHub, and I'm going to pretend like I don't already have the console decoder, and I'm going to go to Dragino. I'm going to find the LSN50V2-D20. This is the one with the single temperature probe. And then I'm going to go to this decoder. Now, very simple. You just copy all of this code. You take it back to console. You go here, add a function. You would name it Dragino LSN50v2. I'm going to call this demo. It's a decoder. And now we're just going to say custom script. We're going to wipe out everything that's there. We simply paste that code in here like such. And then we would go down here and save function. Simple, right? All right, so integrations. What's cool about integrations is, and integrations, just so you know what that really means, is that's where you're sending the data to. So in my case, it's going to be Datacake. They have integrations pre-built for Datacake, Adafruit, Ubidots, My Devices. They even have AWS IoT Core, Azure IoT Hub. So this will continue to get built. There will be more. But that makes it really, really easy, because when you set up your Datacake account, let's say, you just have to go grab your API token, you slap it in here, they did all the work for you, you save it, boom, it's done. All right, so then we can go to flows, and up here, let me see where I've got my, here we go. All right, so we've got Dragino temperature sensors, and then we've got our function here. This is the decoder, and then we've got a line over to Datacake. The minute I go live with that sensor, and it sends data, it's gonna start showing up in Datacake. I have to add it there too by dev UI, no big deal. All right, so going back, let's see. We go to, we're here at console. I'm going to head over to Datacake, and I'm going to add a device. I'm going to say existing product because I already have some of these, which this makes it really easy because you don't have to go through all the configuration for the device. Really, all I have to do is say, here's the dev UI. I'm going to call that DC1. Might as well add DC2 while I'm here, right? So I can go to dry cooler 2, copy, back to Datacake, paste, make this DC2. Next. Add them to my subscription. Yeah, no big deal. Now, the HVAC return, I actually set that up earlier. And I did map a field for Fahrenheit because Datacake, they're out of Germany. They deal in Celsius. I prefer Fahrenheit. So I created a mapping field, which is very simple to do. Basically, you just set the value of 0 Celsius is equal to 32 Fahrenheit, and 100 Celsius is equal to 212 Fahrenheit. Bada bing, bada boom. It knows what to do from there. So, all right. So this is actually outside on my back patio. So it's 77 degrees outside. And I also represented this in a different way here with kind of a temperature range. Now, this is the range that I'm actually going to adjust this a little bit because after talking to my HVAC guys, they said they want to know if that water temperature goes below 40. And so I'm going to change this to 40. Going to get rid of that 35. We get water temperatures below 40. Somebody needs to go up there and manually turn on a pump to get water circulating so we don't have any water freezing in those dry coolers, which of course, if the power's out and we're stuck like last year, then we'll end up having frozen pipes. But I'm hoping to avoid that should we have, a flash freeze. In Texas, that's not usually a big deal, but it became a big deal. Now, what's really cool about Dragino, again, is they write that console decoder. And so on Datacake, you're going to drop that in here, payload decoder. It's going to be right there. And then it'll actually show all of the fields that are needed in order to be able to look at all of the data that's coming out of that sensor. Okay, so that's kind of done. I am going to go back and look at devices, look for DC1. And we're not going to have any data yet because I haven't even turned DC1 on. I need to go and look. This is going to show pending for probably 5 or 10 minutes. But yeah, so we're going to take a short break, and once this is no longer pending, we'll be back. Okay, so it looks like our sensor here is onboarded. Now, that took about 20 minutes or so, and when you onboard something, it's just going to take a little bit, and it'll show pending. Once that's gone, it's there. So I'm going to click on it, and I want to show you something in Helium Console that I find this really, really helpful. Let me make sure my head's not in the way. Right here is the debug console. And so if I click on that, it's going to show me data the minute it rolls across. And that way I can see basically just the raw data coming out of the sensor. Now, in order to turn this sensor on, this yellow jumper, I'm going to take this out. It's only on one pin right now. I'm going to turn it sideways. And I'm going to stick it on both pins, and you'll see a light. Well, you probably won't see a light because I've got a green screen and it's a green light. But it did flash. It's on. It's got power. And so at this point, we're just waiting for it to boot up and once it goes through the boot sequence, it's going to send a join request to the Helium network. And then what we should see is a join accept. And then once it's accepted, then it'll actually send, oh, there we go. All right, so let's look at this. We got a join request. We have a join request. Another one. It's like, can anybody hear me? I'm here. Can anybody hear me? Ah, there we go. We got a response. And now we see some downlinks. All right, here's our decoded payload. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look down here and I'm going to look at, did we have any errors? And I can already tell the answer is no, they're successful. That's all good. All right, and we can see some more back and forth. It's now talking on the Helium network. Is it that simple? Yep, pretty much. It's very simple. So we're looking at DC1. Now, I'm going to tell you that this has not yet sent over any data. It just joined. It just said, hey, I'm here. It's going to take a while. And when it does, this right here is actually showing, you'll see all of these are zeros. That 32 Fahrenheit, if you remember, I did a mapping field. 0 Celsius is 32 Fahrenheit. And because it has not recorded a value and sent that yet, you see temp C1 is 0. That's why it's saying 32 degrees. There's nothing wrong here. It's just the sensor has to wake up and say, oh, okay, I'm going to take a reading. And once it has that reading, then it'll send. Now, in order to change the frequency of the measurements, like let's say, for instance, I want a temperature reading every 5 minutes or every 20 minutes. And really what you're going to use to determine what your interval is it's a question of if your interval is very close together and you've got a lot of reports coming in, I don't really care that it's a lot of DC because I can get 100,000 data credits for $1, right? Who cares? But what I do care about is my battery life. So let's say I'm throwing this up on the roof and it's really probably not going to benefit me to get updates from this device more than every 10 to 20 minutes. Water isn't going to go from 90 degrees to 100 degrees in a matter of seconds. And if it does, I have bigger issues and we're going to know about it because it's a lot of water. Okay. So I'm pretty much going to leave this probably around 20 minutes. And that should give me maybe a couple years on the battery, which will be nice because then I don't have to get up there and change batteries. But let's pretend like I wanted to send a command to change that to 60 seconds, let's say. And I've already worked this out. So there is some documentation. You go in and you basically come up with a hexadecimal value for the number that you want to put in. I would configure my payload here. And in this case, for 60 seconds, it's going to be 0100, 0100. Here I am. And then 3C. And we're sending that in text, not base 64. And so we're going to add that to the queue. And now we have a downlink queued with our AT command that's going to tell it what frequency we want to receive reports. And so normally I would sit around and wait for this to call in again with information, but I don't want to waste your time by waiting another 15 minutes. So I'm going to hit the reset button, and then we're going to see another join request here shortly. Oh, I missed it. See, it's fast. And in a moment, we should see some more data come across about that payload being sent down. And then this will read that payload and say, oh, okay, I understand those instructions. So it is two-way communicating through the Helium network. This is not just a one-way thing. And so I find that pretty intriguing, but how cool. All right, so there's our join request. And then the light's on. It's on for a while. So we should see a downlink here somewhere. There you go, downlink confirmed. So that command went through. And then we still don't have any data over here, and I'm not really worried about that because I haven't given it enough time to sit here and actually give me a recording. Now, the one that I added earlier is this one. Like I said, that's out on my patio right now. And it called in 16 minutes ago. Like I said, I'm keeping this about every 20 minutes, but let's go check. We can look in the debug. And it called in at 6:05 p.m. And 20 minutes before that would have been 5:45. So let's see what value we have here. Yep, there's 5:45. And it would be 5:25 before that. Sorry, it's a long day. Subtraction. All right, 5:25 here. Then there's going to be a 5:05. So just like clockwork, every 20 minutes, I'm getting updates. And that'll go for the next couple of years, you know. So I think that's pretty awesome. Now, part of what it's reporting is the battery voltage. And I don't know what threshold the battery needs to go below before it stops reporting. I need to check in there. But I plan on putting a trigger for an email once my battery value shows that the voltage is dropping probably past 3 volts. I think it's a 3-volt battery. I'm getting 3.675, but I would guesstimate it's somewhere between 2.7, 2.8, somewhere in there, that the battery needs to be replaced. Like I said, I need to check that out in the documentation, so don't take that as gospel. But again, it's not something I have to worry about immediately. All right, so kind of review what we're looking at here is we've gone from taking this out of the box. This one hasn't been turned on yet, but taking this out of the box, onboarding it to the Helium network, and which, as y'all saw, super easy to do. Especially, I'm hoping after this tutorial it'll make it really easy for people to be able to say, oh, okay, this isn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. But I'm just going to stick this temperature probe along the inside the insulation next to the pipes so that I can get accurate temperatures of my dry coolers. And what I'm hoping to do is get the water temperature coming out of the building that's carrying all the heat from my data closets. So I'll know, okay, let's say it's 100 degrees. And then it goes through my dry cooler, and when it comes out the other side, it's 90 degrees. So I know that I have a 10 degree delta. That'll be good to know. It'll also let me know, as the dry coolers, the pumps, they turn on and off and such. So I'll know which one is working harder than the other by how much it seems to be running. But all of this is going to give me kind of a much better view of what's going on with our HVAC. And again, none of this is attached to our company network. So it doesn't, I mean, it's nice, man. I don't know how else to put this. It is so cool that our network at work could go down. I'm still going to know if the data closets are at proper temperature. I'm still going to know if the dry coolers are doing their jobs, because that signal's carrying, the rooftop is 10 stories. So that signal's going to carry pretty far across the city and get picked up by all kinds of hotspots. So, there's plenty of helium coverage. It's time to use this. Now, where do I see this going? I would like, if you have a grocery store and you have 30 or 40 refrigerated cases in your grocery store, I'd like to talk to you about putting one of these on every single refrigerated case and monitoring them so that real time you will get notified if the temperature starts to climb and becomes unsafe for food. It's a food safety issue, and I think this is, the perfect solution to something like that. In that kind of scenario, I would probably put a Dragino LS8, which is a gateway that you can onboard to Helium. It would be data only, but inside up on the ceiling of a store, that would receive all of the data from anywhere in the store that you wanted to transmit through Helium. And what's cool about this is, I'm talking about using this inside of a building at a store, and that's one thing. But one day we're going to see sensors like this on trucks going across the country carrying produce. And, if those strawberries coming out of California get too hot and you know about it, but by the time it hits Arizona and you're in Florida, you can turn it around. You're not paying for that truck to come all the way to Florida with bad strawberries. The network is getting so large now that I would say most major, even mid-sized cities have helium coverage, and it won't be long before truck stops are going to have data hotspots on them. I could easily see that the trucking industry, once they discover this, they're going to be all over it. They may, if a refrigeration unit goes bad on a truck, you probably want to know about that before you spend the money to drive over 7 states to deliver spoiled food. It just makes sense. So I'm interested to hear what other people's ideas are for where this kind of technology can go. I know I'm only talking about one sensor today. There's a lot of sensors out there, but really this video is about the Dragino LSN50v2-D20, which is the single temperature probe sensor from Dragino. And again, they make it real easy by writing the console decoders for you. You don't have to mess with anything. You just copy, paste, done. Pretty cool. All right, until next time, I am planning a video that once I have these up on the roof, I'll revisit and I'll look at the dashboard, look at the data, and kind of show you in real world how it's working out. So talk to you then.